This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome. You are here on lockdown coverage. Your man Louie T is covering the entire National Football League like a blanket. Week number 4 in the National Football League. Dallas Cowboys, America's team, out on the West Coast, taking on the San Francisco 49ers. And they took over the stadium. Couldn't tell if it was a home game or a road game. Every play the Cowboys made sounded like a cheer for the home team. 49ers should be ashamed of their damn selves, but I wouldn't be that upset because Cowboys have one of those fan bases where you travel and they might come and take over your stadium. They got one of those types of fan bases that will travel and come and infiltrate your stadium. And all those battles over the years with the 49ers, I think they left a lasting impression on a lot of fans out on the left coast. And then, transient communities where there are different people living there, boom, got a bunch of Cowboys fans. Either that or they made the trip. Either way, they were in full effect in Santa Clara in this football game where the Cowboys fans, they were loud and proud. But let's get to this breakdown. But before we do, welcome to the channel. If this is your first time, I send a warm salute to you. Subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. I'm also on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, that's what's up. Go ahead and follow me. @InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. You see it up above. All my social media platforms will be scrolling across up above. Also on Facebook, In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Go ahead and give me a like. Go ahead, thumbs up. But most importantly, subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. So let's get to this breakdown now. I was fascinated to see because a lot of people thought the 49ers could sneak this one, and I just wasn't sold on what I had seen over the first 4 or 3 games of the season from the 49ers. I didn't think they played well enough to get the Cowboys here, but they got off to a really hot start, and we're going to talk about that here. Likes, dislikes, and any banana in the tailpipes from this football game. We'll start with the likes of the road team, as I customarily do, that being the Cowboys in this game. We'll start with their first half likes, and then we'll move on to the 49ers. We'll start first half likes for the Cowboys. Chris Jones with 2 great punts. And we don't give enough credit to special teams. And we always hear coaches talk about winning 2 out of the 3 phases of the game. And sometimes special teams can go unnoticed. They don't get enough credit for what they provide for teams in terms of a spark. In this particular game, pinning the 49ers back was really, really intricate. It was a very huge part of what the Cowboys were able to do defensively in the early stages of this game, because after the 49ers got off to the red-hot start, those punts by Chris Jones were huge and integral in getting the 49ers to have to give up some great field position to the Cowboys to allow them to get this game going in the opposite direction. Those punts gave the 49ers a long field in front of them, and they could not convert on 3rd downs and get the football back to a respectable spot where they could punt and then reverse and flip the field. Thought Chris Jones and his punts were huge in this Cowboys victory, especially changing the tide and the momentum in the first half of this game. Terrence Williams with his touchdown, and that was a great throw by Dak Prescott. And I really like, and let's go to the next like, because I think the Terrence Williams touchdown kind of is all lumped in with the things that I like from the Cowboys in the first half. Great response, down 14-0. Okay, you're on the road, and this 49ers team came out with a little bit of energy, and they could have gotten down on themselves, could have fell into a little bit of a lull. No Des Bryant in this game. You're missing the left side of your offensive line. No Tyron Smith in this game. No La'el Collins. This could have easily gotten out of hand. Cowboys rallied, and 2 touchdowns, One right before the half. Beautiful play by Dak Prescott to escape the pocket, get outside the pocket, extend the play, and find Bryce Butler in the end zone for a touchdown to knock this thing up at 14 going into the halftime break. Thought that was a huge score right before the halftime break. Cowboys battling back after being down 14 to love in this football game. Thought that was huge in the first half of this ball game. You go to the first half lights for the San Francisco 49ers. Jeremy Curley with a touchdown on the opening drive. And I actually thought, and this goes to the next I actually thought the offensive execution to start this game for the 49ers was outstanding. You get a touchdown on the opening drive to Jeremy Curley, a 35-yarder. Then you turn around and you go right back down the field, and Carlos Hyde is able to get in, or was it Blaine Gabbert? One or the other. In any event, you feel good about that start. 14 points right out of the gate. They go right up and down the field, make it look very easy. I thought that they were exceptional early in this game, getting into the end zone. And so you felt good about that if you were the the 49ers. But it didn't continue in this game. That's something they couldn't sustain. And it seemed like the first half and the second half starting drives were the most impressive of the day. Obviously, they don't get in the end zone on the second half drive to start the third quarter. We'll talk about that drive when we get there. But those 14 points to start the game was impressive, and you thought it was a sign of things to come, but it wasn't. The 49ers wouldn't get in the end zone again the remainder of the game after those two scores to start the first half. I thought Gabbert was sharp, made some pinpoint accurate throws, and you end up with 14 points on the scoreboard to show for it. That's the kind of rhythm. He ran it. He kept it when he needed to keep it early in the game. Cowboys were off balance a little bit. They caught on to that read option eventually later on in the game, made some plays, stopped him from running. But early in the game, I thought the offensive execution for the 49ers was stellar. You go to the first half dislikes. Dan Bailey missing a 47-yard field goal. It doesn't happen often, but it seems to be happening more than it used to in the past. Dan Bailey missing field goals, missed from 47 yards. Did come back and hit a field goal later on in the game, but still not accustomed to Dan Bailey missing very often. He's missed a couple of times this season already. Go to the 49ers and their first half dislikes. Dropped interception by Eric Reed. First possession of the game. Cowboys on the move. Eric Reed has the football thrown right to him. Dak Prescott with this impressive streak for not throwing an interception as a rookie in consecutive attempts to start a career. And here's an opportunity for Eric Reed to bust that all up, and he drops the football. You don't see that very often from Eric Reed. Pretty short-handed defender, probably the best set of hands in that 49ers secondary. Had an opportunity to make a play early in this ball game, drops it now. The Cowboys ultimately had to punt on that possession, had a chance to attempt the Dan Bailey field goal, and he misses from 47, so it did not affect them. However, you want that interception, big momentum boost, changes the field position, all of that good stuff, and that didn't happen there because Eric Reed dropped the interception. And Jaquiski Tartt with the personal foul penalty, I thought it was a bogus call. I thought that was one of those calls that helped shape and mold and change this game for the Dallas Cowboys. It's a third down and long situation. 49ers come with a little bit of pressure. They hit home. They've got Dak Prescott wrapped up, but they don't get him down on the ground. Hard to hear the official blowing his whistle, and all Tartt does is knock him down to the ground as he's in the grasp of a couple of 49er defenders. It wasn't malicious. He didn't use his helmet. He didn't hit Dak in his head. It was just a shoulder to knock the whole pile down to get him on the ground, and it was a bad call in my mind. And even Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, who were calling the game, thought it was a poor call. And that was a huge call because not only did it give the Cowboys a first down on third and long, and they were going to have to punt because that would have been fourth down after the sack, but it also extended that drive and allowed the Cowboys to later on get into the end zone. So I thought that was a huge, momentous changing call in this ball game that really hurt the 49ers. Did not agree with that call, but you know how it is with these officials and quarterbacks. It's really ticky-tack. It doesn't take much for you to get flagged hitting a quarterback nowadays. Get back to the lights, and we go to the second half of the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys respond to the Niners score directly after the half with a gut punch on the ground. I thought they were tremendous in the second half on the ground. Speaking of which, my next the Cowboys offensive line, it was a revamped, repatched offensive line with all the injuries. Chaz Green and all of those guys filling in. Ronald Leary filling in for the injured Tyron Smith and La'el Collins. Those guys did a bang-up job on the left side of that line. Ezekiel Elliott getting stronger as the day went on. Alfred Morris also coming in and spelling him and running the football effectively. The Cowboys ran for over 180 yards in this football game. That ground game was massive in the outcome as they dominated the second half of this game, and it started in the third quarter, responding to the opening third quarter score by the 49ers. The Cowboys' ground game was the catalyst for this win as they dominated. And it really started when Navarro Bowman went out. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then also Mo Clay with a pick. Poorly thrown football by Blaine Gabbert. Torrey Smith had him by at least 2 steps. It's a touchdown if he puts it out in front of him. He throws it behind him, and Mo Claiborne able to locate the football, make a play on the football, picks it off. He got a gift there. He was beaten on the play and caught a break and made a play and was able to give the Cowboys the football back and give them a chance to put some more points on the scoreboard. You go to the 49ers second half likes. A tremendous start to the second half. You would have loved to have seen them get in the end zone, much like they did in the first half on their first drive of the game. But they didn't get in. But 2 huge plays to start the third quarter. You get a big run by Carlos Hyde, and then you get a big catch and run by Selleck, but it doesn't amount to a touchdown. Instead, the drive bogs down, turns into a field goal attempt that they are able to convert to get on the scoreboard in the second half. It would be their final points of the afternoon as the 49ers struggled to move the football, convert on third downs, and get into scoring range on this afternoon. Tremendous play on the day by Rashard Robinson, the rookie out of LSU. Here's a guy, 6'2", about $180, soaking wet. Looks like he put on a little bit of weight since his LSU days. A guy that got in trouble at LSU, was kicked off of the team essentially, was never really brought back into the program, and so he decided to forego an opportunity to potentially go back to LSU after all of his transgressions off the field. Instead, enter into the NFL draft. His talents shine through, and he's able to make it despite not having played football, essentially what amounts to 2 full seasons at LSU. He still had enough tape a couple years back against Mike Evans, among others, that was impressive, and he still had the measurables and the length and the speed to attract some suitors. 49ers spend a 4th-round pick on him, and he comes in, and I thought he balled in this game, showed the potential to probably get some more snaps in San Francisco, and I really like what I saw out of him. I thought he battled all day long, good usage of his hands at the line of scrimmage, and even after the ball was thrown, I thought he made some really good plays and breakups on the football. I thought Rashard Robinson had a magnificent day. Looking forward to seeing him play more. I thought the rookie stepped in and filled in admirably in that 49ers secondary as they start to see some other guys come in and maybe be able to be contributors moving forward. Go to the dislikes for the second half. And for the Cowboys, it's just one thing. The defense was really dominant in the second half outside of the first drive of the third quarter. And the offense did enough to keep the 49ers at bay. Bryce Butler with the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. The Cowboys are moving the football. It's a situation where it would be a 2nd and 1 without this penalty. And at that point in the game, the Cowboys had a little bit of rhythm and flow offensively. I thought they could have probably moved the football into scoring range yet again if not for this penalty. But he gets a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, catches a pass. And this is what happens when you get dudes who aren't used to making plays, making a couple of plays. No Des Bryant, so that means a bigger role for a guy like Bryce Butler. Not used to making a bunch of plays, so he gets a couple of catches, starts smelling himself, wants to get up talking trash, spins the ball in front of a defender, and he deserved this unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And it set the Cowboys back from a 2nd and 1 to a 2nd and 16. They would not convert, had to punt. One of the few times that the Cowboys had to punt in the second half of this ball game. The 49ers second half dislikes. Navarro Bowman gets injured, and it doesn't look good. I'm not a doctor, nor did I sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. However, when I see a guy go down non-contact and he starts reaching for the ankle, first thing that pops into my mind, Achilles. And I think it's gone, and I think he's gone for the remainder of the season. I hope I'm wrong, but it does not look good for Navarro Bowman. I'm thinking Achilles torn, done for the season, and that would be another major surgery needed for a guy that is huge on this 49ers defense. Second time in 3 seasons. Let's hope that that's not the case, but I'm thinking this is going to be his second major surgery required in 3 seasons for the leader, unquestioned leader of this San Francisco 49ers defense. And that's when the Cowboys started to get the chunk plays in the ground game, was once he went down, and there was a little bit of give and take. There was a Ezekiel Elliott 8, a 11, a 12, a 4, a 3, a 1, a 9, a 2. You know, it wasn't these consistent 18s and 15s and 14s, which is what the Cowboys started getting chunks in that second half. Once Bowman went down early in the third quarter, that's when the Cowboys started to have their way on the ground. Blaine Gabbert with the interception in the fourth quarter, throwing the football deep to Torrey Smith. He had him. And this is why you're not going to win with Blaine Gabbert at quarterback. For all the good things he did in this game, there was one throw to Brent Selleck in the third quarter on that first possession. Can't throw the football. Troy Aikman even said it best. You couldn't have run up and handed him that football any better than that. All he literally did was put his hand right here and the ball stuck. He only caught it with one hand. He didn't have to do anything else. The ball literally went into his hand like it was a magnet or something. That's how well he threw that football. But for as good as that throw was, he has a shot down the field for a touchdown to Torrey Smith. And that's what the one good thing Torrey Smith does is run a 9 route or run, in this case, a deep post. The one thing he can do is take the top off the defense. If you can't get him the football consistently, taking the top off the defense, he's of no use to you on your football team. A golden opportunity to get something out of Torrey Smith, and Blaine Gabbert misses badly to the point where he throws an interception to a guy that was trailing by at least 2 steps on the play, Morris Claiborne. Ahmad Brooks offsides on a third down. Cowboys going to have to settle for a field goal. Instead, Ahmad Brooks jumps offsides. If I'm not mistaken, Cowboys still ultimately had to settle for a field goal on that possession. I believe that may have been their second half touchdown possession. Don't quote me on that, but either way, they would have had to have attempted a field goal right then and there as that was third down. Instead, it extends the possession. They get the first down, and they continue on that drive. Now, again, I don't remember if it resulted in a touchdown or a field goal, but Ahmad Brooks is a heady veteran. Got to know better than that. Can't line up offsides in the neutral zone and give away a first down on third down. He has to be better there. All in all, Cowboys were the better team in this game. They went out and they exerted their will and dominance at the line of scrimmage. That's where this game was won, in the trenches. Thought the Cowboys won in the trenches on both sides of the football. They got after Blaine Gabbert a little bit on those read options where Gabbert would pull it. They were there. They didn't allow him to get any good runs out of that. After that, start to the game, they adjusted, and there was nothing there for him. Great tackling out of space on Blaine Gabbert. And they killed the 49ers on the offensive side of the football up front, manhandling their defensive linemen, tiring them out, and then pounding them late in the ball game when they needed to really put the screws to this 49ers team, eat up the clock, and win this football game. That they did, 24-17. Cowboys go to 3-1 on the season. 49ers drop to 1-3 on the season. It's going to be a tough season for the 49ers. Because you don't have the most important position locked down. And really, taking a step further, for as much as I criticize Blaine Gabbert, there aren't many targets to get the football to. There's not a lot of separation. These receivers don't win consistently. Your best receiver is a guy you got literally at the end of training camp once cuts were made. Jeremy Curley was signed literally 4 days before the first game on Monday night versus the Rams, and he's been your best receiver all season long, has led this team in receptions and yards in 2 of the 4 games thus far this season. And when he went down late in this game, I knew they didn't stand a chance because he's the one guy that can uncover. He's the one guy that can make a play on that football team at the receiver position. All the rest of these guys are marginal receivers at best. That team needs an upgrade, a huge one, at receiver. They need a number 1 and a number 2 receiver. They don't currently have either on their roster. They need a number 1 alpha male type receiver and a number 2 complementary receiver in the worst way. They got a bunch of number 3s out there running around trying to make plays, and that's not helping a guy like Blaine Gabbert that needs to get targets that can get get open so he can get them the football. Not enough of those. So when you get into third and long situations, when you get into a fourth down situation and a guy needs to win, you're not going to find many open targets in tough, sticky man-to-man coverage because these receivers in San Francisco aren't good enough to separate on their own. And you saw that late in this ball game when the 49ers absolutely had to have completions. Guys were draped all over with defenders because they cannot separate. So as much as you want to blame Gabbert, go right ahead. But also make sure you lump in those garbage receivers that the 49ers are trotting out there each and every week to try to get the job done. They're not helping the case at all. Saw that last week against Seattle. Saw it again this week. Those receivers in San Francisco aren't good enough. End of discussion. So Cowboys get to 3-1. Big win on the road. They got a huge one coming up at home versus the Cincinnati Bengals. That'll be a nice test for them at home. Meanwhile, San Francisco 49ers have a quick turnaround Thursday night football at the crib against the Arizona Cardinals, who are reeling. If you want to give yourself a chance to have a semblance of a season, the Cardinals are reeling. Carson Palmer dealing with concussion, may not be able to play with the quick turnaround. Drew Stanton stinks. Take advantage of this opportunity. You may not get many more this season if you are the San Francisco 49ers. That's going to do it for lockdown coverage, Cowboys and Niners. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join your man Louie Tee. I got plenty more games to break down on lockdown coverage. But before I do any of that, we got some Sunday night football overtime to attend to. Great game tonight. Steelers at home looking to bounce back from the spanking they got last week at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in what should be a really good football game. I'll see you after that game for Sunday night football overtime. Until then, I'm your man Louie Tee signing off. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I will see you next time.